Kwasi here, and in this video, I'm going to share with you the biggest key to reality creation and also identity shifting, which took me a very, very long time to figure out. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why some people keep staying stuck in their current realities and some people are easily able to break free. I really, really want you to stick around to the end of this video because I'm going to share with you 3 keys that helped me take my current situation and use it as a propellant to propel me to that final goal that I wanted to get to, okay? This video is literally going to change your life. It's probably one of the most powerful videos I made. I want you to watch this and rewatch this. Before we begin with this video, I want to quickly announce that a few spots for the free one-to-one consult with me for the Reality Mastery Program are now open. So make sure you wait till the end of the video for the announcement on that. And with that, let's get started. So in this video, I want to talk to you about the key to reality creation and the key to identity shifting and this concept that took me a very, very long time to figure out. And essentially, before we get to that, what I want you to understand is that what we try to do is basically try to change our current reality and our current situation, right? So what happens is anytime you want to experience something different, it always begins with a resistance to your current situation. Why do I say that? Well, think about it this way. You want to go to the gym, you want to lose weight. It always begins with a resistance to you looking in the mirror and you're like, oh shit, I don't like the way I look. And then you look into your bank account, you're like, oh, I don't like how little my bank account is. So you want to make more money. So every single desire always begins at resistance. So if we had a sort of scale to visualize this, it would look like this. This is resistance. And this is, desire. We always begin at resistance, but the problem is we keep drumming up this resistance and it starts to dictate more and more and starts to become more and more consolidated in our current reality. So focus energizes. Okay, I want you to remember that. Why is this important? Well, what we do is when we begin at this resistance, we're like, I don't like the way I look. And then we keep focusing on the way we don't like how we look. And we keep focusing on how much money we don't have rather than how much money we do want. Okay? So we started this resistance, but most people aren't able to break free and get to desire. Well, what do you want instead? Right? So that usually happens because we don't have a full clarity around what we actually do want. But we're very, very clear about what we want to avoid. And why that happens is because of years and years of social conditioning. If you look at this new movement, this new fad we have about getting to financial freedom and not doing a 9-to-5, now that there is a possibility for you to get to internet businesses, most people are like, wait a second, this is doable. Well, I want that because why do I want that? I don't want my 9-to-5. I don't want to do this boring, mundane job. But back in the day, I would be excited to have like a job lined up after I graduate. I was so excited. I was like, oh, security, oh, thank God. But who wanted that? Who was conditioned to want that, right? So that's part of social conditioning, which acts as basically a prison cell for your heart's desires. Let's say you have your heart and the prison cell is social conditioning, right? Social conditioning says, don't do this, don't do that. Oh, don't pursue your dreams. Just do something that's safe. You'll be able to pay your bills. You'll be able to survive. It keeps you stuck at that. And because it has its own agenda, it wants to feed off that energy. So it doesn't want you to get to freedom because getting to freedom would mean you're going your own path and you're not feeding this social conditioning pendulum. If you don't know what a pendulum is, click up here. I made a video on that explaining it. But we want to erase these prison cells and move towards our desires. But the biggest problem with that is what we really want is the unknown. We haven't experienced it yet, so we don't really quite know what it is. And we're afraid of it. Human beings are afraid of the unknown. We already know what it's like having an empty bank account. We already know what it's like complaining about being fat. So that's what we keep doing over and over, right? We already know what it's like not having our love lives going our way. And we already know what it's like being in this current situation. That's why we tend to stay stuck at resistance. We keep holding onto it. The ego wants to hold onto it, and we keep focusing more and more on it. And the more you focus on what you don't want, guess what? It energizes more of this current reality, and you keep stuck here. Okay? So really, like, how do we initiate this change from resistance to desire, and how do we move forward? Well, this is the part that took me a very, very long time to figure out. Okay, and how this occurs is you've got to understand the biggest key. Conscious change always begins with acceptance. Conscious change always begins with acceptance. I really want you to remember this. What do I mean by that? Well, this is what I mean. It always begins with an acceptance of your current situation. Only when you begin to accept your current situation, you no longer give this undesired reality energy, because now the resistance just drops, right? And now, when this resistance drops, you have more energy to focus on the desired outcome. I'm going to give you an example to exemplify this. The example is, imagine changing someone's mind. Let's say you get into an argument with someone and you're going back and forth, right? If someone's like, no, you're wrong. And then you're like, no, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. But what if you had an argument where you accepted the other person's point of view and understood where they came from? Now this is when change happens. So imagine you get into an argument, the other person attacks you. They're like, no, you're wrong. You're like, well, I understand where you're coming from. I do. But however, would you be open to considering this point of view? Now the other person's actually open to considering that point of view, your point of view, because you've sought to understand them first. You've accepted their point of view. Do you see what's happening here? Now you're not acting as a rigid wall, but rather you're accepting their point of view. You're accepting this current situation. You're meeting reality where it is. Most people don't even know what they want, first of all. The biggest mistake they make is they don't know what they want and they want to go towards it. They're like, oh, I think I want financial freedom. Let me try to start this business. This is what I did. Oh, let me try stock trading. Oh, let me try affiliate marketing. Oh, let me try consulting. And then they start trying all of these different things and they don't even know truly what it is they want and what they want to do with their lives, what vision they have, right? So that's why they can't move towards that vision, because it's not uncovered, because social conditioning is covering all of this up. It's blocking your heart, right? So that's why they have no choice but to focus on what they don't know. What they do know, right? Which is the resistance, the current situation, what they want to avoid. Like, oh, I want financial freedom because I don't want to be stuck at a 9-to-5. Yes, and they keep drumming up that I don't want to be stuck at a 9-to-5. I don't want to waste my life. That's what they keep complaining about every single day. And they don't really accept their current situation, okay? They're in resistance of it. And that's why this back and forth happens with you and your reality. The more you resist something, the more you energize it. The more you resist that person you're arguing with, the more you energize them, the more you anger them. This is why arguments happen. Like, if you just accepted someone's point of view, then they'd just be like, oh, what? Oh, there is no argument. There is no fight. Like, imagine if you're fighting with someone, right? And you do something completely silly in left field. Like, you start to take your shirt off and you're like, chicken dance, right? Then the person will be like, oh, what's going on here? That just completely scrambles up how it was supposed to go, how the anger script was supposed to unfold. So you basically get into acceptance of what's happening by flipping the script. You're like, oh, I see what's happening, but you're no longer unconscious to it. You're not playing by this what this pendulum script would want. Okay, it wants to anger you. It wants you to stay at resistance. It wants to take your energy, but you no longer accept that because you accept your current situation fully. And that's when the choice opens up. Only with acceptance does that conscious choice open up for what you do want. I want to exemplify this for you right now, okay? I want you to pay attention to this. And to really make you understand this, we're going to go back to a famous scientist, Isaac Newton, okay? Now, this is Newton's third law. Newton's third law dictates that force creates counterforce, okay? So, whenever you have a rigid wall, let's say in scenario number 1, we're bouncing a ball off this rigid wall. You push the ball into a rigid wall and it's bouncy and it comes back, right? Now, the total energy of system 1, total energy before equals total energy after. This is always the case. This is the law of the conservation of energy. Okay? The energy of a system will always be conserved. You can never create or destroy energy, but it can be transferred onto different forms. So before the ball hits the wall, it has kinetic energy. For all you science geeks out there, that's for you, okay? If we go back to high school physics, you'll understand this. Refresh your books. So the kinetic energy initially is the kinetic energy after, because the whole energy is conserved because this wall is rigid. This is what happens when you go back and forth with someone, okay? They put force on you, you put force back on them. Now you're going back and forth because both of you have become rigid, okay? So now there is no choice of change. Change can't occur. When you're in resistance of your current reality, this is what happens. You go back and forth and you just keep that energy around in that same situation. The current situation stays. But now, let's say you assume a different point of view. You're no longer rigid, but you become flexible. Now what happens is you put this ball, let's say scenario number 2. You put this ball and you put it into a flexible wall. What happens is that wall is molded, right? It's molded and it can catch the ball. So now this wall gains potential energy. So this kinetic energy gets transferred into potential energy. Interesting. Now you have the possibility to use this potential energy and channel it the way you want. This is the same way as getting into an argument and using that energy to channel it into what you would want the other person to listen to. This is why, the famous saying goes, seek first to understand and then be understood, right? Because when you understand, then other people will be willing to understand your point of view. So when this ball goes into this wall and now this wall is flexible, it can catch that ball and gain the potential energy from that and channel that energy into that conscious direction you would want, aka the desires. Okay? So now you can push this ball wherever you want. So in this situation, again, energy is conserved. We're not violating any of nature's laws because the total energy before equals total energy after. Right? Because now the kinetic energy has now been captured into potential energy. Now you can do with this ball as you please. I hope that makes sense. I really want you to go back to this part and analyze it and watch it again. Because understanding this is going to be a big game changer. Like if you think about any single area of your life, if you begin to accept something, you already get to a very, very high point of control, if you will. Now you become more and more conscious. Acceptance is a very, very high vibrational state. So when you get an acceptance of your current situation, where you're at, that's when you gain the power to channel that energy into where you would want to take your life. Okay? So now I want to share with you the 3 keys that's going to make complete sense of this and how to actually use this. So what I want you to do is if you want to get to a new reality, if you want to become a completely different person in identity shifting, in shifting your reality, this is what you got to do. First of all, you got to define your current reality, okay? No matter how much you dislike it, define your current reality. And number 2, define your desired reality, okay? So this could also be your identity. Let's say your identity shifting. Define your current identity and your current reality, both of those. And then number 3, whenever anything happens that starts to affirm the state of this current reality, something goes wrong and it's like affirming this current reality of your poverty and something bad happens, which is like, shit, it shows you that life isn't going your way. You just accept it. You accept what's happening. Instead of trying to fight it, instead of making scenario 1 happen and you become rigid and you start to fight and resist it and start complaining about it, instead of projecting it, just accept it. Absorb that energy. Accept it, absorb it, let it be. And use that to shift your focus into what you do want instead, on the desired reality. I can't understate how powerful this is going to be for you. Okay? If you learn to do this, you're going to get so much more control over your life than you previously had. This was the single most thing that helped me go from being stuck in complaining about my business not taking off to growing into 100K months within 11 months. Understanding that, okay, this is happening for a reason. I'm accepting this current situation. Well, what is the desired situation? Focusing on the desires instead. Not becoming rigid. The very reason why people aren't able to shift into a new version of themselves is because they're rigid. Because they've become so rigid in their current state of being. That's why they can't shift. You gotta be flexible. You gotta be moldable. You gotta have a beginner's mind in everything that you do. Only when you do that, that's when you start to absorb the energy of the ball and gain potential energy. This is the single most powerful way that you can use any situation that happens in your life, whether this be negative or positive, to propel you into the direction you would want. Instead of trying to change your current reality and resisting it, choose a new one instead. If anything you take away from this video, it's that. Don't try to change your current state of things. Accept it and choose what you want instead. Because changing it takes much more energy than just choosing a new one. In this quantum state of things, there's an infinite possible parallel realities that can be manifested. You just got to choose. And by the power of your choice, intention gets activated. We don't get what we want because we desire it, but rather because we've made a choice about it. Okay? So, I want you to rewatch this video, but I'm also going to recap it. And first and foremost, we talked about how most people try to change their current reality, and as a result, they fight against it. We begin at resistance and we keep drumming up this resistance, and it doesn't serve anyone. Instead of trying to move to desire. And why most people aren't able to move to desire is because predominant energy is preoccupied in resistance of your current situation. You keep focusing on what you don't want. If you keep focusing on what you don't want, how are you supposed to focus on what you do want? Right? Most of your focus and attention is gone on avoiding and fearing and anxiety. Remember that your focus energizes whatever you'd want to see. It's like a ball of light that's like water for plants. Focus for reality creation is like water for plants. Whatever you put your focus on, it's eventually going to blossom into a beautiful flower, whether it be the undesired situation or the desired one. And the key thing I want you to remember is conscious change always begins with acceptance. When you become accepting, you become flexible. Okay? And the biggest example here is changing someone's mind. Like, if you want to change someone's mind, you got to understand their point of view first. If you want to change your reality, you got to accept what your current reality is first. Right? And we had the two scenarios using Newton's third law and the law of energy conservation to explain this. First of all, you got to understand that the total energy of a system is always conserved. Energy before is going to equal energy after. With rigid people, what happens is the ball doesn't stop. They don't have any control over the ball. It'll just bounce around like crazy and start to dictate their lives. Unless and until you make the unconscious conscious, you're always going to call it fate and it's going to haunt you. Right? The second scenario is what we want. This is when you become flexible to the point where you can convert the initial energy of the ball into potential energy in what you would want in your life instead. Right? When you become flexible, you become accepting. You have a beginner's mind. Now you have the choice. The conscious choice becomes available. Here the choice isn't available because it's just going in all different directions. You become rigid. Reality happens as fate based on karmic propensities. Right? Finally, to conclude this video, the three keys we defined were, first of all, define your current reality and the parameters of it. Where are you now? What don't you like? What do you hate? Who are you? What are your current characteristics? Who do you need to become? What do you want to see? What would you like? What would you truly like? Number 3, anything that happens in your current reality, just accept it for what it is and choose what you would want instead. So for example, if I'm going about and I see bills come up, I see me not getting clients, I'll just accept it for now. And I know that something better is coming. It's that inner knowingness. Because you understand all of this stuff, you have that inner knowingness. You know that if I accept this, change is going to happen. And even if it doesn't, you accept that. Stop fighting against it. Only with acceptance. See, we're reluctant to get into acceptance because we think that if we hold on to desire, we hold on to resistance, then change will happen. Because we're taught that, you go to the gym and you put resistance and then your muscle grows. But that's not how it works in reality creation, because your focus is a completely different thing. Whatever you focus on, it'll create more and more of that, right? Even if you want to gain muscle, like the most powerful thing to do for you is accept where you are right now, where it is you would like to be, and just put in the work. Accept your current state of things, what income level you're at, and work on consciously choosing what you would want instead of fighting against it, instead of complaining about what is. And with that, I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. I sincerely hope this was helpful. Please leave me a comment letting me know what you thought of this, if you like this, and if you want me to make more videos like this. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Hit that little bell there so you're notified of any new video that I put out. And also, I'm super excited to announce that the free one-to-one consult with me for the Reality Mastery Program is now open. If you've been looking for spots for a while, we've been fully booked up, but a couple spots have opened up now. So make sure you click on the link in the description below to sign up, and I hope I see you there. This is typically for you if you're a professional looking to transition out, really experience a different aspect, a different facet of your reality, get to financial freedom, time freedom. People who are already existing entrepreneurs and business owners, you're stuck at a certain revenue level, you're wanting to scale up, but you find that the problem isn't like strategies and tactics, but the problem is you. There's some internal ceiling that's keeping you stuck here and you don't know what it is. Okay, you want to get from the 20 to 30K to the 40K months, but you just can't for some reason. People who are high performers, creatives, if you're an artist, you want to take your career to the next level, you're a musician, you're a director, this is for you, okay? And please don't sign up if you're not serious about working together. We're only holding spots for those who are. We have very, very limited spots available, so I hope I see you there. So make sure you click on the link to sign up. And I also wanted to announce that the free Facebook group is also open for you to take advantage of. The link for that is also in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Till next time. Peace.